Hi, and welcome to the Heal from Within Series 2.0, where we're talking about healing our bodies, healing our lives, healing all naturally, raising our frequencies so we can live our best, healthiest life. And I'm your host, Jody Jeline. And today I have Tara Bianca on, and she is a holistic health practitioner for almost 20 years. And she's the owner of Light Transformative Therapy. And that is an online holistic health company specializing in therapeutic breath work, body work, mindset, and sound healing. So, welcome, Tara. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, and breath work. Oh, that I love that topic because I feel like that was one of my first journeys, actually kind of figuring it out on my own when I
Really?
I realized I was holding my breath.
Mm,
And you think that that's so foreign, like, oh my God, I'm like holding my breath. And
right.
but I find out a lot of people do that. So
Yeah.
it's not uncommon. So learning to breathe, which sounds crazy, but it's so important.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about your journey and how you got to be doing breath work.
Sure. I mean, I think my journey overlaps with yours a lot in that it has been unfolding for decades, right? And it continues to unfold. There's kind of no endpoint, right? The layers keep coming off and you
Oh
keep
yeah.
continuing on the journey and discovering new things. I think my journey really started when I was sort of my mid-teens. It started to develop and manifest as sort of chronic gut inflammation. I started to have all that gut dysbiosis at a young age. Um, and I went through that typical issue that so many people have of like my mom was trying to do the best she could with the knowledge she had, and she was taking me to doctors. I had a colonoscopy when I was like 18 or 19 years old. Like they were just trying to find answers. And the gut microbiome wasn't like vibrantly talked about like it is now, right? We didn't really know
Oh
much
yeah.
about it.
I
And
remember
so
that.
I had a really early exposure to just feeling failed by the modern medical establishment. I mean, it really let me down. There were no answers for me. And I was struggling so much with not just gut issues, hormonal imbalance. It was really impacting my mood negatively. And, there was such a huge emotional component for me. I had really low self-esteem. I was so shy. I had a sense of not belonging anywhere, of constantly feeling like an alien, really bad social anxiety, not a lot of friends, so I didn't have that peer group, that emotional support to help me through it. And so then I was just stuck in this cycle of like, my self-worth is so low, and that's exacerbating more of the chronic inflammation in my body, and the gut issues are getting worse. And I just couldn't break that vicious cycle. So by the time I was a teenager, I really started to get interested in holistic health. And for my journey actually started very kind of traditional health and fitness. Like I started really getting interested in food as medicine and nutrition, and I was always interested in fitness. So it kind of started in this very ubiquitous commonplace of exercise and nutrition. And that really wasn't working either. I had to keep looking and keep investigating because I just was not getting to my answers. And so that led me down the path of, the bulk of my profession has been as a manual therapist. So I was doing tons of self massage, learning about the body, really deeply learning about the anatomy and physiology. And then eventually, I was doing yoga, I was doing Qigong, like this breath work thread was constantly like tying through all these activities that I
Yeah.
was doing, but it was never the primary focus. And then eventually I found breath work as a focal point and really understanding breathing physiology as when you have a dysfunctional breathing pattern or something dysfunctional going on in your breathing, how that so dramatically impacts the mood, the digestion, the nervous system response, whether you feel safe or not, whether you feel a sense of belonging or not. And so for me, finding that, I mean, it tied together all the symptoms that I had been experiencing for decades, first of all, and it gave me the power to address all of them with a singular tool. And I'm not going to say that everything is perfect every day or that breathwork is the end all and be all. But what I love about breathwork is that there is no equipment required. And once you learn the basic physiology, the basic science, you understand the why, and you have a handful of simple techniques, you can use them anytime, anywhere. No one has to know that you're doing them, and they work immediately. They are instantly powerful to get you relief. So it's really powerful. I think it's one of the most empowering tools that we can give to people because it's so simple and because you can implement anywhere and at any time, totally for free. I mean, what could be better than that?
Right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was wonderful. And yes, we have had similar journeys. Oh my gosh. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I was quite young too when I started all this. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think all of us that find this work start off pretty young. I mean, it's a path that calls to you. Your
Yeah.
own
Right.
healing really pulls you towards this world.
It
Yeah.
does. And you can't not do it. You can't not help people when you've gone
Right.
through that transformation. It's in you.
You have to share it. I mean, that's part of the journey. It helps to continue, it helps to complete that learning loop, actually. I think it makes it more impactful for you personally as the practitioner when you share it out.
Yeah.
It just becomes all that more powerful, and it really validates what you're doing, and you get to see with your own eyes, oh, this is not just my personal experience. This is so many people's experience. This is really like, it allows you to have this commonality with your fellow man. You really, you really get to see the benefits across multiple demographics.
So true, because you I shouldn't say,
Yeah.
a lot of people, meaning you, grow up with a lot of trauma and they think they're the only ones. At least I did. And then you find out, whoa, this world is full of trauma, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah. And very poor coping tools. None of us are raised with any kind of coping, or we develop maybe dysfunctional coping mechanisms, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We don't have really good tools for breaking through and having that transformation and that clarity and that ability to move forward in a powerful way. I think a lot of us are stuck constantly in this defensive mode, where we're just trying to survive. We're
Yeah,
just trying to survive the day, and it's not a
true.
good position to be in. It's not an empowering position to be in.
No, and then the frustration of I did the doctor thing, and you know what the doctor said to me? There's no such thing as flora, and which is microbiome, and that's just what they called it back then. And it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What? No, that's like I
Yeah.
felt like I knew more about the digestion than she did because I had
Yeah.
bloating issues. So
Right.
yeah, it's a frustrating route for a lot of people, and that's why they seek elsewhere, which is great because this is where the true healing is because your body knows what to do.
Yeah.
It is not short of taking, it needs a pill to heal because it'll never heal the body.
Right.
Yes, it'll give you relief, that's fine. But if you really want to get to the root, there's so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say, I used to be more critical of the modern medical establishment. Now I try to keep a more open mind, realizing sometimes, pharmaceuticals can be a miracle. They're powerful.
When
But like you said, it's a band-aid on symptoms, and they do not cure you. It's not a cure. It makes things temporarily better. And it usually comes with a lot of side effects, but it's not getting to the root cause. And so if you come off of those pharmaceuticals, you're usually back to where you are and sometimes even worse, right? So I think that's really important for people to realize. If you need to use something like that, great. It's your journey. And if that helps you to feel better, fantastic. But you also have to be thinking about these other lifestyle issues that might be perpetuating your symptoms.
yes, for sure. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And as we know, an emergency, yeah, you need it too. So
Of course. Yeah.
good
There's a
that
place
it's
for it
there,
for sure.
but
Yeah.
there are other ways to
Yeah.
heal. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the breath work and the nervous system and how that all ties together in healing.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of my favorite idea with breath work is how it's so interconnected with our autonomic nervous system. So I always say your breathing is your direct gateway into your autonomic nervous system. And I like to think of your nervous system as sort of your perception of the world in any given moment. What is happening in your brain and how your nervous system is responding really determines if you feel safe and secure or if you feel threatened and defensive. It really shapes how you show up in life and how you are perceiving the people around you and the environment around you. So the condition of your nervous system in any moment really is your perception of reality. So I think this is, again, really powerful, that breath work, just altering how you're breathing taps into that incredibly powerful system of perception. So how does it do that? I mean, it's bi-directional in nature. So if you imagine, you're in a room full of people and you start to feel that anxiety coming on. Maybe you have anxious thoughts. Maybe you have some fear going on all of a sudden. What happens to your breath when you have thoughts or feelings like that? Like what you said, Jody, you might hold your breath, right? Because that's a fear response. Like, I don't want to be seen. I want to be invisible. I don't want anyone to notice me. Let me hold my breath,
Yeah.
right? Or the opposite is a lot of people will start to just breathe shallow and fast, and and it becomes very this upper chest mechanism. And so your thoughts and your feelings affect your breathing, and then vice versa, how your breathing can start to impact your thoughts and feelings. It's this circular thing. So maybe I don't have the anxious thought, but maybe I'm someone that, from whatever reason, I have this dysfunctional breathing pattern where I just happen to always breathe shallow and fast, right? Or I just happen to always unconsciously be holding my breath. Well, that your body already sees that as a model for stimulating more of a sympathetic stress response in your body, more of a flight or fight response. Holding your breath and shallow upper chest breathing stimulate that part of the nervous system. So you can't separate them. Whether you're consciously aware that you're afraid or stressed or anxious or not, if you're breathing in that way, your body perceives it like that. It doesn't matter what your prefrontal cortex is thinking, right? The rest of your brain, your primitive brain, is like, oh, something's wrong. We need to prepare to fight or flee. And so what winds up happening, as you said, Jody, you've encountered a lot of people who are maybe subconsciously, unconsciously holding their breath or breathing really shallowly, is that you have this epidemic of people stuck in a chronic stress response and they don't even know why, right? So what you can find is that if you can address the dysfunctional breathing pattern and just get people to really connect with their breath and their body, get them to just deepen their breath, really get their ribs to move and really slow it down, it changes the whole game. It changes the terrain,
Yeah.
and it gives them this terrain where they can finally feel safe, where they can finally digest their food, where maybe the inflammation starts to go down, where maybe their sleep is starting to improve, where they can finally heal and recover, where their relationships maybe start to improve because they're more present. They're not in this reactive mode. So breathwork really has the capacity to change the game across every category. I mean, it's such a simple thing, but I don't want people to think that the simplicity makes it unuseful. Like it's so simple and yet so effective. It's like the perfect combination.
Right. And you said present, and that's at the beginning of our conversation. That was my first thought, is when you go to the breath, you're present,
Yeah.
which is huge because your mind isn't all over the place.
Right. Because I mean, what could connect you to the present moment more than the thing that you are the most reliant on for your survival, really? Like when you hold your breath too long, you know it, right? Your brain is not, if I just had you, I said, Jody, just hold your breath for right now. Like that's all you're thinking about, right? All of a sudden, everything else disappears. And now it's just like, what's going on with my breathing? It really brings you back into the moment and it gets rid of the distracting thoughts for sure, for sure.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, when I told you that I figured out that I was holding my breath, and it's a pattern I learned when I was a child.
Right.
And that's what happens, we are in trouble or whatever, we hold our breath. And I would literally walk my dog. And so I would take 10 deep breaths every
Wow.
time I went out and walked my dog. And I had to train myself to
Wow.
breathe. So, so
Good for
yeah,
you.
it's like retraining yourself to,
Amazing that you had that awareness at such a young age and that you were able to correct it on your own. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
yeah.
But it's just creating a new pattern in the body. It's like taking on any new habit. You want to crowd out the old bad habit, the old dysfunctional habit. And so it's just consistency, awareness, and practice that starts to change it over time, right? You just become more aware of what your triggers are, what your response is, what you're doing with your breathing. Once you have awareness of it, you can change it. And then it's just about practicing it consistently until you've repatterned your brain, your nervous system, your breathing pattern, and everything else follows. Yeah, I mean, it really can be that simple. And you experienced that firsthand without any guidance, actually. You just figured it out on your own. It can really be a simple and very personal and intimate thing.
Yeah. And can breath work, like the breath work that you do, can that heal past trauma?
Yeah, really interesting question. My first introduction to like focused breath work was really coming from this frame of psychospiritual and emotional wounds from the past, right? That was the first type of breath work I learned. And I used to facilitate group healings and private healings, putting people through this pretty extreme breath work, if I'm going to be honest with you. Um, and what's powerful about it, though, is when you When you are able to manipulate the breathing in different ways, you can elicit these different responses in people. So this type of breath work that I'm describing is quite popular right now. It's more of a breath work where you are actually trying to drive a fight or flight response temporarily so that when you let go of that, your body really starts to downregulate and find its peace again. And while you're in sort of more of a sympathetically driven state, you'd be surprised, like the old memories that come up, the subconscious beliefs that become obvious to you, the emotional wounds that become very obvious to you. It can be a very cathartic journey for people. Some people compare it to sort of a plant medicine journey. Like your breath work can be very powerful like that. And it's a great opportunity to pull up the old subconscious wounds and finally have an opportunity to reflect on them. So I'll give you a quick example. I know we have limited time, but I always give the example of one client that I was working on privately in my office one day, and his wife had passed away 15 years earlier. And he always felt like he was personally responsible for her guilt somehow. She had a terminal illness, and he just always felt guilty that he couldn't help cure her and that he lost her so young. You know, they were really in love. And going through this breathwork session, she appeared to him during the breathwork session. And he was able to like sit up, eyes still closed, but have a conversation with her in that moment and find complete resolution around this guilt-ridden experience that he'd been carrying for over a decade. So that's something really powerful that I don't know that you can get to in other ways. You know, psychotherapy is maybe helpful, but this is happening below the level of, again, that prefrontal cortex where you have to speak and use language. This is something that's happening on a deeper level that you're not controlling. It's just coming up for you, and you can allow that wave to come over you and kind of heal. So I do think there's a place for it for sure. And I think it's very possible. There's a lot of ways we can manipulate the breath to elicit these different things. I will say breath work is really good at pulling up the awarenesses and pulling up the old wounds and pulling up the old trauma. It's still very, very, very important to have someone to work with who can help you to integrate whatever comes up. So unfortunately, what I see happening in a lot of breathwork circles is you have facilitators who are really good about exposing people's wounds and making them kind of raw and open and vulnerable. But if you check in with those people maybe a month later or 3 months later, they've kind of tucked it back in and suppressed it again, right? They didn't find a way to actually integrate what came up for them, even though that was an amazing experience and very cathartic. You also need to integrate what you learned from that experience, right? So there's two parts to it. The breathwork can be powerful for addressing the past trauma, but you might also need other tools moving forward to really integrate what that means for you and how you're going to shift your habits and repattern your nervous system going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Could we do an example of breath work and see the
Sure.
power of it?
Sure. How
Yep,
much time do we have, Jody? How much time do we have so I can?
we have at least 10, 15, 10, 12, 13 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, I think for the purposes of the podcast, so that everyone feels safe and secure, we're going to do something very simple. I don't want to make it very complicated. So what I always say is when in doubt, a 4/6 cadence is actually my preferred and my most utilitarian type of breath cadence. Let me tell you guys a little bit why I like it so much, and then we'll try it together. So whenever we breathe at 4/6 cadence, that's like 6 breaths per minute. It allows your heart, your lungs, your brain, your diaphragm to all synchronize together and to get into perfect resonance with each other. This is so much power for allowing for beautiful oxygen uptake and oxygen distribution around the body. It really helps to lower our blood pressure. It really helps us to sleep better. It really helps us to feel safe in our bodies and in our environments. It's awesome for recovery after stressful situations, and it's really awesome for improving our sleep. This is something I always do before bed, or it's something that I always do after maybe an intense workout or after a long walk. I always put myself on the floor and I breathe at this cadence. This is excellent for building up your resilience to life. It just gives you a sense of I'm in control of my body and my mind, and I can handle what comes my way. So I hope that you guys will feel it. It's very simple. It's very simple, but it can be very powerful. So
Okay.
go ahead and find a comfortable seat, or people at home, if you want to lie down, you can also lie down. I love to do this seated. I'm going to move the camera a little so you can see my rib cage too. Maybe I'll back up a little bit. So I'm going to just start by having you guys sit there and just find a nice upright posture without feeling too stiff or rigid. And imagine there's a string on the crown of your head that's gently tugging you up towards the ceiling. And keep the chin parallel with the floor. And also notice what's happening in your mouth. Can you allow your tongue to make gentle contact with the roof of your mouth, anchoring the upper part of your respiratory tract? And then once you find that position, I'm going to ask you to take your hands and just put them on either side of your rib cage. So if you need to see it, you can look at me. And I like to just work on deepening the breath before we even get into this cadence. So give yourself a little bit of pressure on the ribs. And as you inhale through your nose, can you push your ribs into your hands and feel your ribs expanding out to the sides? And then as you exhale gently, quietly through your nose, can you use your hands to gently guide your ribs back in? So giving a little pressure as you breathe in, your ribs expand out. And as you exhale through your nose, your hands guide your ribs back in. So really feeling those ribs moving. As you inhale, your ribs are pushing your hands out to the sides. And as you exhale, your hands are pushing your ribs back in. Let's do a few more breaths like this. As you inhale through your nose, get your ribs to push your hands gently out to the side, expanding the rib cage. And as you exhale out, your hands are guiding your ribs back in. And one more breath like that. As you inhale through your nose, can you get your ribs to push your hands out to the sides? And as you exhale quietly, gently through your nose, can you get your ribs to relax? And without changing anything, just lower your hands, lower your shoulders, relax your body. Keeping that intention now of deepening the breath and still allowing the ribs to move with each inhale and exhale, we're going to go into a 4-6 cadence where we'll inhale through the nose for 4 and slowly and quietly exhale through the nose for 6. I'm going to count for us to keep us together. So here we go. You're breathing in, 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in. Feel the ribs gently expand and out. Really letting that breath go. Relax the body. 5, 6, and in. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in. Feel the ribs gently expand. 4, and out. Feel the mind and the body totally relax on your exhale. 5, 6, and in. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do a few more together. And in. 2, 3, 4, and out. Relax your exhale. Relax your mind. 5, 6, and in. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 more breaths. And in. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Last time. And in. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And keep your eyes closed for a moment, maybe, and just get a sense of how you're feeling. We only did that breath practice for about 2 or 3 minutes, but have you felt any shift in your physical body, in your emotional state, in your mental state? Just noticing what might have changed. Maybe you're feeling a little more relaxed, a little more calm. Just take note of it. And then whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes nice and bright. Really bring yourself back into the room.
Awesome.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, Jody? Do you feel any effect from doing that, even just for a couple minutes?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, my body feels relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that I wasn't relaxed, but it's like another level.
Right. Um, it's a simple thing, which is why that's the first exercise I like to give people. Most people can manage a 4/6 cadence. It's super functional for so many different things happening in your life. Most people are going to feel very down regulated from that. Whenever we extend the exhale a little longer than the inhale, it more so stimulates that parasympathetic response in the nervous system. So that extended exhale is really what helps us to get into that yummy kind of nourishing rest and digest mode, that healing and recovery mode.
Yeah.
Um, so again, applications in life, you could practice this for 5 minutes a day. I always love to do it at the end of my workouts for my recovery. And I always love to do this right before sleep. I think it's a really nice way to down regulate and calm your mind before you drift off to sleep.
Yeah, beautiful.
Hmm.
Thank you for that. That was awesome.
Good. I hope people enjoy it.
Yeah. So now I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what do I want to ask her next?
Yeah, well, so that's the perfect response, right? It really takes you out of that forward thinking mind. It
Yeah,
really does calm the mind down.
yeah,
You'll notice when people do a lot of breath work, if I do a long breath practice, when I come out of it, my voice it actually drops. It's much lower. There's
yeah,
less tension in the throat, right? And there's less sort of franticness in the expression. You're just so much more calm and present. You don't feel this urgency to like get the words out. You can be very measured in how you're speaking. Yeah, it really changes everything. It's so interesting.
yeah. I do feel like my speech is slowing down. It's probably not the best for an interview, but hey, what do you want to talk about next?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
So, okay, so I know you have a free gift, but is there anything that you want to say that maybe we didn't cover before we get to your free gift? Oh, you froze.
I think the one thing I want to reiterate for people is that you don't have to overcomplicate it. There are so many breathing techniques out there. And sometimes, even breathwork can be a business. And sometimes I think things are intentionally confusing for people, so that they have to continue to find answers. You have total control over your breathing, and you just need one simple technique that works for you to be able to practice every day. And sometimes it only takes 3 to 5 minutes to create a dramatic change in your physiology, in your mental state, in your emotional state. So don't be afraid to keep it simple and don't be afraid just to use that simple tool that you have. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like do it. Doing it is better than trying to find the perfect technique.
Yes. Good. That's really good to know. Yeah. Okay, tell us about your free gift you have.
Yes, so I have a free breathing video training that is available. If you go to my website, it's belighttt.com. That's Be Light with 3 T's / breathe to feel good. And in there, you'll get a lot of really quick tips on how to breathe more functionally. You'll get a lot of access to the current research on breathing, just so you can see the why behind it and how it is so powerful for our physiology. And within that presentation, it also will explain to you some of my other programs and services so that you can kind of self-select if you want to work with me further or not. It kind of gives you a sense of what I teach and what I'm about and why this work is so important to me. So I definitely encourage everyone to go check that out. I also have a really extensive YouTube channel. There's about 200 access online content. I have a pretty substantial YouTube channel.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, this was great. So the link will also be in the email you got to click on this video, and you can click on her site to go get that free gift too. So, oh my gosh, Tara, this is wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
This was really great. I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope your audience gets a lot of value out of this work. And thank you
Yeah.
for thank you
So,
for your interest in this work as well.
yeah, yeah. All right. Okay. Bye for now.